I'll tell you that. Okay, bye. Bye.
Okay, we have present Barbara, Skip, Richard, Kevin, Scott, Jason, Grimlick, and Jill Barwick currently are absent. Staff, we have Mike Pearson here,
Yes, present.
Kelly Jurgensen here, Rob Manguela,
Here.
and Carlos Villafuerte,
Here.
and then myself, Melanie Rashbaum Purvis.
Okay. All right, welcome to the best meeting of the year, everybody. Much excitement, and the good news is, the bad news is we have lots to cover. The good news is that we will finish in 90 minutes, one way or another. So on the agenda today, let me just give a little preamble, right? We have a report out from the third party auditor. And then we have a review of the annual report, including a discussion on any specific comments. So just on that note, our goal is to finish in 90 minutes. Our goal is to go through the annual report, including any comments for this year. As part of that, provide a sort of synopsis, Reader's Digest version, Cliff Notes version of the compilation of comments from previous years, which I believe will help inform any comments for this year. It is probably unrealistic that we're going to get to 100% and get everything cleaned up. So there will be some pickup work, which will be minor. That will happen after this meeting. That we will take offline, assuming we reach consensus on comments and annual report content and things like that. All right. With that said, do we have a motion to approve the agenda for this meeting?
Me, I do.
Richard, do we have a second? Not all at once.
I'll second.
Thank
Scott.
you, Scott. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. With that, let's move on to item number 2, which is the next item rather, which is the acceptance of the minutes from last time, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm messing up the slides. Sorry about that.
No worries.
There we go.
You were just testing me, right?
Yep, you're on it.
Not really, but that's all right. Okay. Approval of the minutes. I'm sorry, I should have said acceptance of the agenda. Carlos, please forgive me. And the approval of the minutes from our November 10th meeting. Are there any comments on the minutes from last time, folks?
I'm happy to put them up if anybody needs them up. If not, you guys feel free to vote if you're okay. It's up to you.
Yeah, why don't you pull them up, please, Kelly?
You got it.
Just for thoroughness sake.
Yeah, I thought I was misquoted, Kevin, but I liked your quote better. No, I'm teasing.
All right, very good. Kelly, we're still not seeing them.
Yeah, I know. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm clicking away.
No, just that sometimes when people have multiple screens, at least it's hard for me.
Absolutely. Let's see, meeting minutes there we go. Let's see if I can do that. Does that work? Do you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Excellent.
We do. Okay.
Just tell me where you want to go.
More.
Okay, let's scroll, please, Kelly.
Sure.
Okay. Can we move forward, folks?
Go.
Okay. Kelly, can you scroll some more, please? Okay. All right, let's keep moving then. Okay, I think that's it, right? Can we scroll down a little bit, Kelly? Oops, there's more. The gift that keeps on giving. I forgot about the project updates.
Did you have a question, Mel?
I wanted to know on our agenda, we had said November 2021, but this is January 2022.
Oh, we must have just typed in the wrong thing. Okay, thank you. Can you note that in the minutes and we'll make the correction?
Yes.
But just to be clear, the minutes are correct, everybody. You're looking at the right set of minutes. It's just the agenda, probably just cut paste there from last time.
Okay, let's scroll down there, please. Okay, any further comments on the,
Yeah, go back just a second, Kelly. Can you just a little bit? Because it said we're gonna, a project update, we're gonna delay to the 9th meeting. Is that on the agenda for this? That, see where it says number 7, motion to move items 7, 8, 9, 10 to March 10th? Are those things on today's agenda?
No, they aren't. And I'm sorry for that. That'll have to bump one more meeting because we had to focus on audit because we got that and in the annual report, we're kind of under the gun. But we will track anything that doesn't get picked up in the following meeting after that. Thank you for asking. And we'll note that in the minutes.
okay. All right, any comments, Skip or Richard, Barb or Scott?
No, fine.
No,
On the minutes? You can't see what we're reading, Scott, but it's okay. So, okay, do we have a motion to approve? I'm sorry. Yeah, approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay. All right. Then our next item on the agenda would be to inform the public. Do we have any public present for the best meeting of the year?
We do not at this time.
They don't know what they're missing. Okay, I will skip the reading of the preamble then, and let's move to agenda item number 6.
Hey, Melanie, I don't, or I'm sorry, Jordan, are we recording right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I didn't remember the thing coming up. I probably missed it. So sorry to interrupt, Kevin. Go right ahead.
Okay, then we'll move to item number 6. All right, presentation of the third-party auditors by our third-party auditor.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and introduce Sheldon with Shavana and Associates. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the audit document and then allow him to speak a little bit to it. And then he'll be around for you guys to ask questions. The audit document was in your meeting packet for today. So take it away, Sheldon.
What is it, afternoon or evening? I think we're right. We are here to talk about the June 30, 2021 Measure H bond audit for the district. And it's an interesting topic of discussion for a couple of reasons. One is the fact that it's a little bit of a history lesson because we're already in March of 2022. And that's a very commonplace for audits these days in a COVID-19 environment, that reports are getting issued in January, February, and March, and some of them are going out to April. We're hoping that this year, the 2022 fiscal year, the reports will be issued in December and January, which is the normal timeline for my firm. However, bond audit reports under Proposition 39 are actually due to be presented and accepted by the Board of Trustees and presented by the Citizens Oversight Committee by March 31st. So you're actually within the statutory requirements and the original requirements, not the COVID-19 extended requirements. And so therefore, you're still right on par from a bond audit perspective. Now, the other reason that this is an interesting audit report is because there's so many standards involved in presenting this rather small report in terms of the number of pages. You're looking at a PDF page, 29 PDF page, electronic digital PDF page report, 23 actual report pages. So in this, today's world, under generally accepted governmental auditing standards, this is a relatively, if I could speak English, it would help. It's a very small report in comparison to the district report, for example, which is a 100-page report. And what we're looking at today is the different standards that we actually perform the audit under. And first and foremost, we perform the audit under generally accepted auditing standards, and therefore we issue our independent auditor's report on that. And if you want to scroll through, you can actually go and look at the table of contents, and you probably see what I'm talking about from there. There you go. So the financial section, supplementary information, and then other independent auditors reports. The independent auditors report is the one that I'm referencing to now. This is where we issue our opinion. We tell you whether or not we have any modifications to our opinion, and we discuss as to whether or not, actually I should say we discuss management's responsibilities and we discuss the auditor's responsibilities. We also tell you whether or not there's any other matters to discuss, any emphasis of a matter, and then if we've issued any other types of opinions. And you can see from the table of contents we have. Now, keep in mind, under generally accepted governmental auditing standards, and sorry, let me reverse that a step. Under generally accepted auditing standards, the scope and the objective of the audit is to present financial statements that are free of material misstatement. So that's the main objective of the audit. We provide a reasonable assurance when we're doing that. It's not 100% assurance, but it's a reasonable assurance. And so the financial statements that we actually present include the balance sheet for the bond program, and then of course a statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And we support those two statements with some note disclosures. The note disclosures are mostly about the significant accounting policies, a little bit about the district, a little bit about the bond program, and then it gets into the details of cash and investments, and then of course the actual debt itself related to the bond issuances. The supplementary information is a part of the next two standards, and then I'll step back up. I'm going to go into the next two standards since we talked about the generally accepted auditing standards. I'll talk about the next two standards, and then we could talk a little bit about the supplementary information. The next two standards include our next two opinion letters, which is under the other independent auditors report section. The first one, which is regarded to as internal control, is the opinion letter that's required when we perform an audit following generally accepted governmental auditing standards. And under these standards, it's really where we discuss and talk about how we do not test controls. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's really how we talk about how we do not issue an opinion on internal controls. We actually do test controls. We do that as a part of the requirement to document and understand those controls so that we can assess risk, and in assessing that risk, plan the audit. And that's our responsibility as an auditor under generally accepted governmental auditing standards, which is a little bit more detailed in that term, in that sense, over the generally accepted auditing standards. There's more work behind it. There's more write-up behind it. There's more inquiry behind it. There's more documentation behind it. And in the end, this particular report and other reports that we issue to the district itself are above and beyond what you would find under generally accepted auditing standards. So the main difference are the reporting requirements between generally accepted governmental auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. Now, the next one is performance and compliance, which is really more performance than compliance in terms of what we're doing now in the audit world. 2 years ago, there weren't any real standards to follow in relation to performing a bond audit. There was a blurb in the back of generally accepted governmental auditing standards that wasn't very long, wasn't very detailed. So audit firms really were kind of all over the place as to what we were supposed to do. We now have very specific standards to follow. It is a new chapter in the generally accepted governmental auditing standards. And so the government auditing standards, this whole section now covers both. The state has come along a little bit. They have an education audit appeals panel. The education audit appeals panel has an audit guide for all of school districts. They have now added an appendix specific to these bond audits. However, the appendix is relatively useless because it's well below the scope we actually perform in these audits. Now, I've given you kind of a very large overview. The only thing I didn't mention was that in addition to the financial statements, we issue a supplementary statement. And that is really to give you those program schedules and the project expenditures by site. And we audit that and we say it's audited. And then also some notes to that schedule. And of course, in any of these types of reports under generally accepted government auditing standards, you want to know if there's findings or not. And so we have a couple pages on whether or not there's findings. Okay, so I've spoken a lot about this, but I haven't given you any results, right? Just kind of give you the framework. So what are the results? So I'm going to summarize this really quickly, and then we can actually look at some numbers if you like. We did not have any modifications in our independent auditor's report. What that means is it's a clean audit opinion with no exceptions, no material weaknesses, and no control deficiencies identified. We did not identify any non-compliance in our generally accepted government auditing standards report. And in our performance and compliance report, we did not note any non-compliance related to the bond expenditures and the requirements under Proposition 9 and or the bond measure. And we felt that our conclusion is that the expenditures were allowable within the bond program. So if you would like to, we can actually jump and take a look at some of these. We can take a look at that independent auditor's report on page 1. So I think actually the best part of this report is the opinion. So go ahead and scroll down. Right there, right at the bottom. The top, the page right before that at the bottom. One more up, just a little bit up. Right there, we can split it. So right there, opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects, as I mentioned before, the financial position of the Measure H bond of the Napa Valley Unified School District. In essence, these financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. Those are the key words. We did not modify our opinion. If we had, you would have saw something that would have said an except for. And an except for is not a good thing, or an adverse opinion, right? Something like that. So this is a clean opinion. It means that the district, the bond program, passed the audit in terms of whether or not the financial statements are presented fairly. Go ahead and scroll down for me, please. Okay, stop right there. Other matters. The one thing to note is that these financial statements are not the district's financial statements. They're just specific to the Measure H bond. And so that other matters, very first paragraph states that. The second paragraph states that we've audited that supplemental schedule I told you about. So there's a lot of it's a fairly long paragraph to go into that, but the bottom line is it's an audited schedule. Scroll down for me again there. So these last two paragraphs are referencing to the other standards that we are reporting on. All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump forward to the very end of the report, page 21 and 23. I think you guys have seen all these numbers, but we can jump back up and take a look at them if you want. I think it's more important to see what we actually did in the audit. So in a performance audit, generally accepted governmental auditing standards requires that we identify the methodology, the scope, actually I should say the scope, the methodology, and then the procedures we actually perform. Scroll down to page 21, please. PDF page, report page 21. Here we go. So go ahead and scroll down just a little bit more. Right there. So the objectives of the audit. So that gets into the purpose essentially. Most notably, it's really about the expenditures and whether or not the expenditures were, whether or not the bond proceeds were spent within the parameters of the ballot measure. Also, we look at the administrative salaries. Go ahead and scroll down to the next page, please. We also look at Proposition 39 because that's where this all started from. And so we're looking at the requirements and the compliance requirements, quote unquote, performance requirements related to the Proposition 39. Now, mind you, there's different types of performance audits out there, and that's another reason why the generally accepted government auditing standards decided to go ahead and beef up those standards specific to these bond audits so that it was very clear as to what auditors were required to do. You can hire a company, a CPA firm or another company to come in and do a performance audit that has to do with the bond program itself, the future cash flows of the program, the parameters of the construction, the construction in progress, the program management, those things that have to do with operational side of the bond program. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is making sure that the bond proceeds were spent correctly, essentially, and that they were in compliance with the bond measure and that they were in compliance with Proposition 39. So that's essentially what we're trying to do here. And at the same time, we're required to issue financial statements. Now, mind you, we could actually consolidate those financial statements in the district report if the district's building fund only includes Measure H, but it doesn't. So because it doesn't, we want to break that out and we want to issue separate financials to make it very clear. So on this same page, if you look down under scope and methodology, item number 5, we tested, I should say we sampled, right? Now, mind you, when we're going through our sampling, the first thing we're doing is we're identifying a materiality, right? We identify a population. Once we've identified a materiality, which is typically, it starts with 5% of total expenditures, and then we pare it down from there. We'll typically go 5% of total expenditures, 75% of that, and then half of that to come up with what we call performance materiality or individually significant materiality. And that's what we'll do first when we look at a population is we'll identify the parameters within the population. We'll make a judgment as to whether or not anything needs to be pulled out if it's something that's not quite right or doesn't look right off the top. And then we will identify the material items, pull it and take the rest of that population, put that aside, in essence segmenting it, and then do a random sample on the rest of the population, or do a random sample and a judgmental sample or a haphazard sample. So we've done 3 different variations of the sampling method on one population. And in doing so, we end up testing about 72% for Napa Valley Unified School District of the expenditures for 2020-21. Most audit firms are going to test anywhere from 50 to 65%. That's what you're going to see in these programs. Some of them even less, depending on the size of the program. If they've tested controls to be able to rely on them, which we did not do for this, we tested controls to document the processes and assess risk, but we did not test them to rely on them. If we had done that, we could actually have reduced our sample size to 50% or less, or something of that nature. It's really auditor's judgment involved on that. But I think in these programs, when you have these larger amounts going through these construction companies and the capital outlay that we have, it's actually better to try and reach a higher substantive sample percentage. And so that's what we do. But we want to make sure we represent the entire population. So that's why we stagger the sample and the population when we sample the way that we do. So the bottom line, though, is 72% identifying key controls as well, identifying allowable costs, and then verifying to invoices, purchase orders, contracts, and whatnot. It's a really high level of assurance. And then we also selected 3 contracts to test for bidding requirements, and we didn't have any exceptions. So the bottom line now is after doing these different procedures under the different scope and methodology that we've identified, what are the results of the procedures performed? Scroll down a little bit, please. Right there. So we did not identify any exceptions to the procedures performed above, nor any exceptions to other tests that we conducted related to the Measure H bond. Our audit of compliance was made for the purposes set forth in the objective section of this report and would not necessarily, auditors protecting themselves, and would not necessarily disclose all instances of non-compliance, right? We are giving you two pieces to this now. Not only are we saying that they are in compliance, that the performance was met, we're also going to issue an opinion. In our opinion, the district complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct and material effect on the Measure H bond program. So all in all, what you have with everything that I've just presented to you, which was quite a bit, is that the district's bond program looks to be in really good shape as it passed a very detailed audit process. So with that, we can jump around and look at some numbers. I can leave it open for questions. But at this point, I'd like to kind of let you guys direct the way we go so that you can we can have a little bit back and forth, because I find that to be a very good way to communicate.
All right, folks, anyone want to initiate questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Sheldon, you talk about the contracts that were finished. Was anything done about the contract that wasn't finished, the middle school that wasn't built at all? Did you check that as well?
Yeah, see, that's what I was referring to earlier, is there's different ways that you can perform, pardon the pun, a performance audit. And that's not what we do. We don't look to those types of situations to see why a middle school wasn't finished, to see what happened with that. What we do is we look at what was done, what was spent.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah, and we verify that those expenditures were allowable. You know, the other part of that, you know, we could look at if we identified a risk there at some point in time, if there were any initial expenditures, you know, that let's say you start a project and don't finish it, that happens all the time. We find that those expenditures are part of the bond program. That does happen, where you have projects that start, you spend some money on it, but then they don't finish for various reasons, but there's still allowable costs within that bond program, as long as that project met the parameters of the bond measure.
And you find that it did?
Yeah, we didn't find that it didn't, I can tell you that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Sheldon, thank you for the high-level summary. That was, you know, very clearly laid out. Could you elaborate on the difference between sampling and testing? You use both words.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I shouldn't have used both words. The sample is the subset of the population. So for example, if we found let's say there were 100 warrants that were dispersed throughout the year, we'll look at those 100 warrants and then we'll select 70 of those for testing. So
Okay.
that sentence in and above itself will clarify. So yeah, so the testing is, we've selected the sample, now we're going to take it and we're going to verify that the numbers tie out. We're going to pull invoices, we're going to pull purchase orders, we're going to pull contracts, and we're going to verify that those numbers are correct within that sample.
So in that example, the sample would be 70 out of the 100.
Correct.
And your investigation of the 70 would be the testing.
That is correct.
Okay. Maybe a refresher question for us, because I'm at least out of practice, but could you elaborate on, so this was an independent audit of the Measure H bond fund monies, but it was performed in conjunction with the, I'm going to say loosely said, regular audit of the district's business. Could you elaborate on that process?
Yeah, sure. It's actually more beneficial for the district in terms of cost savings. You know, it's if we were hired just to perform the bond audit in and of itself, we would be required to go through the process that the district normally has to go through in terms of documenting, testing, controls, performing walkthroughs, doing the risk assessment. essentially the district would have to do that twice. One for the district programs overall, and then secondly for the bond program. Now, because we're able to combine the two, we're saving the district time and effort and money. Not only it doesn't save the audit firm time, it saves the district time from resources and pulling documents and whatnot, and interviews and inquiries. So in essence, what we're doing is we're able to take, I guess the best way to say this would be that if you look at the district and how its chart of accounts and how it's organized internally from an accounting perspective, the district accounts for things by fund, right? So that's the general fund. It has a deferred maintenance fund. It has the bond fund, which is a part of the building fund. And so instead of just looking at the building fund, we're looking at all the district funds as well as the building fund, which includes the bond fund. And then we're looking at that entire population of all those funds when we're doing our testing and when we're documenting our controls and making our risk assessments. So that's how we coordinate the entire audit and include that bond in there. And what we do in these scenarios is that we'll make sure that our samples are highlighting that specific area. So we'll tilt the scale towards the Measure H bond program. So when we're testing disbursements for the district to assess their control risk, we will make sure that we're focused on and weighing in on that part of the population that belongs to the Measure H bond program. But we have to be careful because we don't want to lose sight of any different control processes that might exist between the bond program and the district's overall disbursement processes, right? And there might be slight differences depending on who's involved, different departments and whatnot. But in general, most districts, and I think Napa falls under this, have a very streamlined process for purchasing, requisition, disbursements that's fairly the same for their bond programs and their other warrants and disbursements for the most part. And so therefore it saves time and money for everybody if we're able to streamline that testing and do it all in one shot instead of separating it. So, I mean, that's kind of the tip of the iceberg of the methodology behind the testing and consolidating the two audits. But hopefully that answered your question.
Right. So in layperson's terms, the district is able to take advantage of testing activities that you are able to do as part of the general fund audit or non-Measure H fund audit, and the economies of scale related to doing this in combination with the Measure H and the quote unquote regular business unit audit.
Yeah, I think the best way to think of it would be economies of scale because we were able to combine them so they can take advantage of that. It's more efficient.
Okay. Does anybody have any further questions on this topic as far as undertaking both audits together? Okay. And then one last item, at least for me, if we could scroll up a little bit, I think it was item number 8 or other up, sorry. Okay, all right, so that's just, number 8 is just the formation of an independent CBOC.
Correct.
Okay.
A lot of audit firms don't look at that, but we feel like it's important. It helps us actually guide our districts because a lot of times they have a hard time filling the seats. And when that happens, we need to make sure, or we feel like we need to make sure that they are attempting to fill those seats. Because if they're not, they're out of compliance.
I mean, there's other districts that don't have volunteers lining up to be on the CBOC.
All the time, yep.
We have a district that struggles to get 2 members and are constantly trying to do it. So especially in the more rural areas, it becomes really difficult because there's just not as big a population base.
Yep.
So no, we are lucky to have so many members.
Okay, did you hear that, team? We're all rock stars.
Yeah, you actually are. It's very true.
Okay, let's take it around the virtual room here. Skip, Scott, Barb, Richard, any other questions on the audit?
No, I'm good.
I have a comment. Go ahead with 4.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Yep.
Yep, go ahead, Skip.
Well, I was impressed by the audit. This is probably the 13th or 14th audit that I've had to churn through. And if you remember back when we met the auditor at Snow Elementary, we had to really arm wrestling to get put in words the requirements of the Constitution, Section 13A, subsections C or 3C and D, which lay out some words that ought to be used, I think, or standards that ought to be met for the performance and the financial audit. In any event, I don't know whether that's an outcome of the firm that was selected to do the audit, or whether it's an outcome of this new chapter in the generally accepted governmental accounting standards. I'm going to have to get a hold of that and review it. But it's nice to have an audit that in fact does address the two specific things that we are under the gun or chartered to address.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. Last call for questions.
Kelly, can you run this back to some of the figures? The money figures that we're up on like page 5 or something. Just stop at any of them. I just to refresh, because I looked at it earlier, but okay, gotcha. That's what I was remembering, but it wasn't there before. So
No, I didn't touch on that because I figured you guys had a chance to look at these at the numbers. So, and then we could, if you had questions on those, we could dig in.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, where does this go after this, Kevin? I mean, is this going to be in our final report then as well? All this material right here?
Yeah, so we are required to, so it's included as an appendix. The short answer is yes, it's included as an appendix to the annual report. And, it's part of what we reference in the statements that we're required to make as part of the state's requirements for what is, a CBOC must report out on.
Okay.
It's also important to note that this audit, as well as the one for the overall general fund, have been presented to the school board as well. So that step happens before. So the school board accepts the audit, and then we present it to the CBOC, and then the CBOC also packages it as part of their report under your duties to inform the public. So it's just another way to get the audit out there as well.
Okay.
Right, and so, right. Okay. All right, last call for questions for Sheldon. Okay, Sheldon, thank you for the
Thank you.
orderly summary of how the audit was undertaken. And if we have any further questions, we will send those your way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sheldon, you actually come to Napa to do this? Or is this all done?
Well, this last year we were sending out small teams, trying to keep it down to 1 or 2 people because of COVID. Year before that, we had no teams going out, all remote. 2022, we're ready to hit it full bore, get full teams back out. We're hoping. So we're going to head out full teams. Everyone's vaccinated, boosted, wear a mask, the whole 9 yards. So as long as we don't run into any more hiccups with COVID-19, we expect to see 4 to 5 people out on site.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
I will say too that Sheldon's firm has been really great to work with from a digital remote standpoint too, just sharing files and then grabbing the stuff we need, saying what they need to have. So it was a really smooth process, even without in-person meetings. So I know that I appreciate that, and I'm sure the district does as well.
Yeah, we're very big on cybersecurity too. So.
Okay, thank you so very much.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right, folks. We now come to the second part of our meeting. All right, so last meeting we ran through generally the upfront section of the annual report. Why don't we just run through this quickly?
Yeah, I can start with just pulling up the upfront section. If you guys have anything else you want to let me know to change, that's great. I know we didn't get as much time as we wanted last time. We were kind of going quick. So feel free to let me know. I'm pulling up that document right now, sorry.
And,
Got a
and
lot
just-
of things open.
Yeah, just for a time perspective, right? If there's individual tweaks to formatting and stuff, we can take that offline. And I can work with Kelly and Mike on that. So just really a refresher what the upfront section looks like. So this is going to be flying through here real quick. Unless anybody has any things that they're specifically concerned about.
And some of these notes are just to remind myself, I think I mentioned this in the last meeting, so sorry to repeat,
Right.
but just to remind myself to update the page numbers and things like that, which I don't do until the very end in case we continue to make changes. So
Right, there's
just
a whole
heads up.
bunch of formatting that's going to ultimately happen in the finished
Exactly.
folks, right? So
I had a question about graph 10 or pie chart 10, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, do you want to just skip ahead to that? We can skip
I
around
just,
if that's okay. with
done.
you.
Okay.
In case you need anything, I thought number 10 was one I had a question about.
Okay, Kevin, do you want to go through in
We'll just-
order?
we'll just scroll through and we'll hit number 10 as we get there.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so this is the COVID disclaimer and all
Yeah,
that.
added a bit of language on this one to just
Yep.
kind of update what happened since the last year.
Yep. This is
Same
all,
table of contents.
Yep.
Mhm.
yep.
Most of this is boilerplate.
Yep, this is all boilerplate, folks.
Yep.
And we've been through this a couple times now.
Yeah, can't remember if it was this year or last year, but there was a request to define the funds, which we did.
Yep. Yep. Appreciate that.
And also just a key to define the school types because the graphs get so small. I believe Skip requested that we do kind of a little key to say what each thing means. So when we abbreviate, we have it there.
Yep. Okay, and then we go through the graphs, the pie
Yep.
chart. Okay, so this is the funding source, right? So this was a topic of much discussion, but that's where the money comes from. And then number 2 is where the money goes based on school type, right?
Mhm.
And then this is the implementation plan budget.
Yeah, so now we're going into the buckets. So the implementation plan that you see in the spreadsheet format has now been moved into a pie chart format, essentially.
Right.
And again, just a reminder that we did pass a new implementation plan at the board, but because this is for the previous fiscal year, it reflects the prior implementation plan and the financials just up to that point. But like the past years, we have the next implementation plan attached as an informational item, as we discussed in the last report.
Right. And we talked about that last year, right? We
Mhm.
threaded the needle last year on that.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is one of the categories from the overall view of chart number 3, right? Seismic.
Yep. So now we're in a particular bucket and
Right.
then splitting it by type of school.
Okay, all right, next. This is the next bucket,
Yep.
The next one.
the next bucket, right? So you see, sorry. You see,
That one?
yeah. Oh, sorry, this is by school type in
Yep.
that bucket. Sorry. Okay. Yep. Got it. And then this is, again, you see that most of, I can't read that, but 96% is of fencing is at elementary schools.
Yep,
Whatever
and a tiny bit at the high schools and then such a tiny bit at district facilities that it's even hard to measure. I think there were a couple places where there might have been like safety gates put on or things like that.
Need to keep Mike Pearson safe. Okay. This is our IT or technology.
That's right. And as we discussed in the past, this is the one where we actually break it down by type of project or type of device that was procured, because that's a little simpler than by site. Because by site really wouldn't give the public a lot of information. So we did this one a little differently per our discussion.
Okay.
And then this is the last bucket, the capital improvement management and small projects.
Okay. Okay,
And what number are we on, Richard? Oh, Richard wanted to talk about 10. That's the next one. Okay.
all
Okay,
right, Richard.
this is creepy. It doesn't have, it's the only one that doesn't have a dollar figure on it. And somebody just opened this up and looked at this, they would think, you're spending 25% on consultants? No wonder you're wasting money.
Okay, so first of all, if
It
it doesn't
needs
have
a
a
better-
dollar amount, that was a mistake on my part, so I can certainly put the dollar amount in. That's
It
just
needs
simply
better
a typo.
explanation. It just needs a better explanation, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And just so the committee knows, 24% on non-construction expenses is better than the industry standard.
I know that, but people don't know that. We know.
Yeah, we could, do you want to add something like that to it? Like maybe an information on the industry standard versus where we're at, and I can put the total amount. That was just simply an oversight on my part, so sorry about that.
Well, it looks like we're spending, a quarter of what we're doing on, yeah.
Okay,
Consult-
we can work on that.
Yeah.
So Kelly, you and I can tweak that.
Great.
Or delete it, for all I care.
Well, I mean, it's really professional. It's really non-bricks and mortar costs, right?
Right.
Yeah, maybe it needs a different name.
Well, and maybe there's a further, explanation of items that are included in their category.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
There you go.
It might be easier to just say consultants include the following.
Yep.
The following, yeah.
Not limited to the following and.
And
Good
make it a
idea.
long list. Architects and,
Right.
Because
Because clearly you need an architect to construct a building, right? So.
yeah.
Okay,
That's what they want us to think, Carlos.
okay,
You see my
What
work?
about me doing it?
okay, all right. Does anybody have any other comments relative to this upfront stuff?
No.
Okay, going once, twice, 3 times. All right. So Kelly, I think what comes after here, what comes after this now?
So now we get into our appendixes.
Okay,
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to jump right into specific comments. If you want to look at I think all the other appendices are going to be really easy. So I don't know if you want to breeze through those and do specific last, or if you want to dive right in. Totally up to you.
in the interest of time, let's dive right in. And if it's okay with you, oops.
Yeah, I can grab
gonna-
the specific comment document if you'd like.
Yeah, before you do that, I want to
Uh-huh.
share if I could.
Oh yeah, here, let me stop. All right, go right ahead.
And I just want to refresh all of our minds here. Got to remember what venue I'm on here. Each one is different. Okay, so this is our, congratulations team, believe it or not, this is our 5th annual report that we're working on. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I believe it.
So just to give some history on where we stand, last year we did not have any specific, we did not have any new specific comments. What we did is we reviewed and categorized the previous specific comments from the previous 3 years, right? And so in year 1, which was 16 to 17, we had, I think we had 7 comments. Then in year 2, we had 10 comments, one of which was a review of the comments from 16 to 17. And then in 18 through 19, we had, sorry, it's amazing how quickly you forget what you just did. We had, I guess, 3 comments, 2 of which were associated with comments from 16 and 17 and 17 and 18. And this document more or less was included in last year's report. Kelly, I did update it with the, I did update the live version with the district's responses.
I appreciate that. Sorry about that.
I did it very fast, so I don't know that I got subject verb agreement, but
That's okay. We have the other one to go fall back on if we need to.
And apologies, I need to shrink this down, I guess. Maybe that's still somewhat readable, maybe it's not.
And I'm going to step away from my desk for just one brief second. I'll be right back. Yeah, carry on. Just don't do anything fun without me.
Okay. So in any case, we had grouped these into items that were the committee considered closed, items that were in process, and items that as of the initial drafting of the report had not yet been responded to prior to the issuance of the final report for last year that we did that, staff, as I guess you're all called, congratulations, came back with responses on this. So in any case, the reason I'm doing this is just to give an outline of, where we stand on past year's comments. So with that, we have, there's some comments out there this year that I thought we could run through. And obtain consensus on applicability or not for this year. So what we would envision is that there would be some comments specific to this year's report, which would be report number 5. And then this document here would be cleaned up a little bit. And did not get everything cleaned up for today, but we would move forward in that direction. So while we're waiting for Kelly, oh, she's back. Okay. All right, Kelly, why don't I stop sharing? Unless anybody has any comments or questions about this document? Okay. All right, then I'll stop sharing. And Kelly, why don't you take over and we can move to the specific comments for this year. Shoot. Oh, stop share. There we go. I haven't used Zoom in a while. Apologies.
I'm talking and I'm on mute. So from a formatting perspective, would we be adding like a separate section for these new comments, or how do you want to do it from a formatting perspective?
I think it's probably my recommendation, subject to others' input, would be that we would include these comments inside the report, and we would have this exhibit outside the report as an appendix, because I think, having gone through this and trying to recreate in my mind what we've done over the past 4 years, it got confusing in how we addressed previous year's comments. It just evolved that way for a variety of reasons, which we all thought was logical at the time, obviously. But that would be I think that would be the easiest thing to do. That would be a suggestion, unless anybody feels strongly feels a different approach is better. Come on, folks, best meeting of the year. Where's the enthusiasm? Okay.
So that sounds good to me. So, go ahead.
I think we should, Kevin, to put it just like you suggested. I'm for that.
Okay.
That what you just showed us an appendix, not the.
Right. I feel so validated, Richard. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Kelly, can you pull up? So we've gotten, I apologize, we've gotten a variety of comments.
I can share them on my screen. I think most of them have been shared with me, but if I'm missing any, Kevin, at the end, just let me know.
Right.
So we can go through them, but just so that's your new comments are going to go here on this page I have up on the screen right now, but we're going to continue to use the link to the previous year's spreadsheet so that people have a historical record of what the comments were before. Is that right?
Yes, I think that's the least painful option and the most effective option.
Okay, so bear with me for a second, because they're the comments are an email, but I tried to put them all to the top of my email box, so it would be a little more efficient.
Okay, if not, I can pull them up because I have them as well.
So in no particular order, here is what I have. So I have a comment from Kevin about project delivery methods. Do you want to kind of go over that with the group?
Yeah, so I think it's become accepted that because it's public works, you have to do design bid build. And I think I think Kelly, you would agree with me that that doesn't always produce the best value for an owner.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always result in lowest cost or best value. So it's becoming more commonplace in public works to look at not only design build stipulated sum, which is still lowest number wins, but also progressive design build, where the owner gets to work collaboratively with the contractor to develop a best value budget. There's also other types of procurement methods, including integrated project delivery, where contractor, owner, and architect are all working together as an integrated team. And there's also what they call an IFOA, which is integrated form of agreement, where contractor, architect, owner, and trade partners all have skin in the game and are all thereby motivated to work in the best interests of the project. And these are becoming more common in the public arena. An example would be let's call it the $2 billion UCSF Parnassus Hospital is an integrated form of agreement. And if anyone is ever familiar or have worked for a UC system, they have to strictly adhere to the public contracting code. So that's the intent of this comment.
So I'll give you just a tiny bit of context as K-12 goes, because we have to also follow ed code. We can do lease back. We can do design build stipulated sum. We can also do progressive design build. We cannot do IDP or IFOA because we're beholden to ed code. And just for context there, I would say, no offense to K-12 construction, but we are like the least progressive of all of the state agencies. So yeah, I've done work with CSU, which is a lot like UC as far as they are very progressive with their delivery methods and think of a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm sure some of these delivery methods are going to come on board with ed code, but they're not quite there yet. So those two can't be done, but I think that your comment still stands as that you want to use integrative, more progressive delivery methods. So I just wanted to give you that context, and no argument here because I love those delivery methods.
Yeah, I think the intent is that the selection is best value, whatever that value criteria is. So just, and I know we got to move along. So just, a common practice that UCSF or the UCs use and other public institutions as well is they still have to obtain a low number or obtain a lump sum number, but they get to divide it by how they score that best value, right? So it's based on some sort of scoring criteria that again gives the owner the benefit of not being stuck with the low number on bid day, but the highest number at substantial completion day. Anyway, that was the intent there.
Absolutely. So I would just say if you want to keep that comment, you just might want to say and work toward those other delivery methods or something like that. So you recognize that that those can't be done. But other than that, I think you're good to go. I totally agree.
Okay.
All right. So I will go ahead and add those into the draft with the comments and go from there.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to move on to Skip's comments. Skip, do you want to go ahead and walk us through these? Can everybody see okay? I'm sorry, it's my email, so it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to read, but.
Well, what you're looking at there is not the comment. That's a result of a meeting that occurred earlier this week with between Mike, Kevin, and myself to figure out where the heck I was coming from, to put it bluntly. And so the actual, I assume, are you going to put the actual long-winded comment in the brief, or
Oh,
Kevin, tell me what?
Yeah, I apologize for the misunderstanding. I thought these were now kind of abbreviated for the report. So I thought these were the ones you wanted to use. Give
No,
me one
these are-
second and I can pull up the other ones if you'd like.
No, we don't have time to churn through there. They're going to be made available to the committee, and I thought that, excuse me, I thought it was going to be a matter that the committee reviewed, and then, I'll stay out of it and tell Kevin or whatever, whether you think those things are justified or not. Certainly, this email that you're looking at there is just a succinct encapsulation of what the heck I was getting at. And whether or not those specific comments see the light of day in this report or in a lessons learned section in the final report, I really don't care. But I thought, and I still think, that they're germane comments. And I will say that the language that I wrote them in was not particularly encouraging in terms of making friends and all that, but the language can be changed. I think the basic point is still valid, and that was the purpose of this email, was just to give you what the basic point was.
So just to hit the high points here, right? So Skip, your comment number one is, Measure H bond money should not be expended on sites that are going to be or reasonably expected to be closed in the foreseeable future, right? And that is a theme that has woven its way through a couple annual reports now. And then number two, I think we talked about this somewhat recently, that I think it's, and I think it is good that we have been, that the other funds, the budgets from the other funds have been shared to see the budgets that have been enabled by the voter passed Measure H funds. And I think what this comment says is it's a recommendation that the allocation of management and admin costs, soft costs, that there be some allocation of those without higher order mathematics being required. That gets allocated between, let me say it differently, I'm sorry, folks. Management and admin costs that span between Measure H funds and non-Measure H funds, that those costs from a best practices perspective should be allocated in some, I'm going to say, simple ratio between the different funding sources. Thanks, Kelly, because my memory's not that good.
Sorry, people annoyingly keep sending me emails, and so I'm trying to keep you.
Number three, in this, I think comes out of, and Skip, I'm not intending to put words in your mouth, but in the meeting packet today, just for all of our reading pleasure, was the original grand jury report from whenever that was from, 2017 or 2018. And we have been trying to get the annual report out earlier in response to the grand jury's report. And, in the case of this year and last year, right, we were at the mercy of the state relaxing the deadlines for having the third-party audit, which was received this time this January for this past year. So timely issuance of the annual report should not be delayed by delays to the issuance of the district's audit report. The district is at the mercy of the state, given that the state relaxed I shouldn't say that. The district is at the mercy of the auditor. The state relaxed the deadline on the auditor. That's a fair statement, right, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. And And then number 4 was annual report comments, which we don't have time to go. That's the document I had pulled up in the beginning. That's the document that we will ensure is cleaned up. And we will make that available. That does include the district's responses to the report, to our comments from last year. So those are there to read. I think in some cases, there's comments that the committee might have back to the district and comments the district might have back to the committee. But that's the intent of number 4. Skip, did I cover that?
Well, number 4, I would just say that I didn't see any movement in comments to which the district had not provided a final answer. And that may just be because it's one of these things that kind of lingers on and takes a while to adjudicate. But the thrust of that was that any of those that the district's response, well, I'll just read the synopsis there. The CBOC annual report comments to which the district board of trustees has provided an interim response should be, insofar as practicable, finally adjudicated. I don't want them to sit out there and then disappear into the sunset when we disappear into the sunset.
Okay, so what you're saying, thank you for that. What you're saying is that, sorry, Kelly, can you let me share again, please, real quick?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
What you're saying is you want everything to be turned red, which is right? We don't want hanging chads, right? So, shoot, one day I'll get this right. Okay, so we just need to what we need to do is double check that that everyone agrees that there's a final response, or maybe, or a response, right, that ultimately with the final report, which some of us will not see, but with the final report that everything moves to red, and that these responses are tweaked, or our responses to those responses are tweaked accordingly. That's
So
what-
that from a standpoint of issuing the report in a timely manner, maybe it would be good before everybody leaves the meeting to kind of establish how that will happen. Just because I just want to understand from the person who has to make the report. I just want to make sure that I understand. So if there is a district response to the comment from the previous year or from this year, what is is there a next step, or what do we do after that? I just want to make sure everybody understands before we leave what that process looks like. If I made myself clear, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think what I would suggest, so we'll get to timeline here, and I know we're running out of time, so we got to keep going. But I think what we should do, Kelly, is I think we can post this document to the meeting folder, and people can, and I'm going to ask you to do a QA/QC on my very fast typing.
So the PDF version of this is in your meeting folder right now. So you're good there.
Okay, then in any case, we can post this with the PDF. This formatting here on the left-hand side is a little different. It was easier for me. I don't know if it's easier for others or not. But if people have responses to, or comments to, I should say, the district responses, and Skip, I apologize, I didn't get to your stuff. Then I'm asking them to send myself and Kelly and Mike an email to that effect, just to those 3 of us, and we will in turn update that, and we will post the final version before we go to press.
Is this going to be an appendix then?
This document would be an appendix. I think it was Appendix G or H last time.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then, as we discussed, the new comments will be in the body of the report, and we can have a response section in the new comments or hone in on what they are, or all that. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood what the response looks like.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right, so I do have a comment. I also had another one from Barb. So if you guys don't mind if I screen share one more time, and I want to make sure we at least get through those. I had one from Kevin, one from Barb. I had the group from Skip. So I got one more to share with you guys.
And I think Richard had one.
Oh, okay. You can go ahead if you don't mind me sharing Barb's first, Richard, then we can jump to you if that's all right. Okay. Okay, Barb, you can go ahead and walk us through yours if you'd like.
Sure. Mine is pretty straightforward, and I believed it fell into our responsibility to inform the public. I think that the school district, it's basically, you can read it, but in a nutshell, oops, I got the wrong there. Oops. But
Oh, we'll fix all that later.
okay,
Sorry.
in a nutshell, I believe that the district has made a tremendous progress in terms of posting Measure H business on their website. They are on the front page, the splash page, and when I first came on board to the BOC in 2018, we were bound by binders and a tremendous amount of paper. And I think the district has really streamlined that. I think it represents their transparency in terms of keeping everything available that we do to the citizens of Napa. And in interviewing a couple of prospective members these past couple of days, I have been able to reference them to the district's website with Measure H, and all of our information was there. I feel really good about that. That sort of is the way people do business now. And I think the district, mine is a commendation. I think the district has done, along with probably Kelly and other people involved. This was something we talked about a number of different times through our meetings in terms of communication. How do we communicate with the public? The best way is right now is the district's website and clicking on the Measure H link, and everything's there. And so I think that it's good for us to recognize that. And that is my comment. Anybody have any feedback?
Yeah, that's my comment too, Barb. That was my comment is that, and as a matter of fact, I think not only should have this, but I think we should have a more simplified answer, and so that when it's finished, you can look and see what each project essentially costs. It doesn't have to be dollars for dollars. The reason the reason I asked this is because I've asked both Mike and what the cost of the gymnasium was at Harvest Middle School, and Rob both. And neither one of them can give me a number for that. And because I'm looking at, trying to save the gym if we can, when they sell the property. It would be nice so that in 20 years from now, when somebody says, well, Snow School costs $40 million, that they can actually look at a number, go to the website, a website someplace, and see those numbers, what the actual cost is. Because I've heard a lot of comments lately from people that I have talked to that said, Measure H is wasting the schools, wasting our money is what the word is, what I hear. Oh, they're just wasting money. And I'd like the people to be able to look and say, oh, that's where the money went. They didn't really waste it. There's where it is. So that's my comment. Now, maybe you can amend this just a little bit to say, and make sure it's there forever, so that you can always see the information, because to me, that's important, that people can look it up easily and not be fooled by just whatever somebody writes in the internet.
So Richard, your point is that there should be one source of truth that is accessible to the public.
Yeah.
That captures the total cost of each project.
Yeah.
That was funded by Measure H.
Correct.
Is that a fair statement?
That's exactly right. That's what I would say. And then it's just there so people can look it up and see it. So they actually, and they can do the math if they want to and add it all up, say, oh, there's where the money was. Yeah.
Okay, so I just, Barb, on that same document you shared with me, I just put a quick sentence there that you guys can see so that we can flesh out. Oh, I said Skip's comment, but it was Richard. Sorry, Richard.
No, that's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
We
Skip's smart.
don't want to give Skip all the
Lord,
credit for the
Skip.
comments.
No,
You get one
that's okay.
too.
Skip pays more attention than I do, so.
So I'll go ahead and just put that there. And then, you know, in the process of finishing the comments, we can
Yeah.
always flush it out a little bit
Yeah.
more if that's okay.
Okay, so does anybody else, I'm sorry, Richard, was that,
That's what I'm
did
saying.
I restate that appropriately?
I just think that people look at the screen so much that they believe anything they see. And so if we actually put the truth up there once in a while, it would help.
Okay. All right.
Oh, and Jill agrees with me on that, actually. We talked about it.
Okay. All right. Did we miss any comments from anybody? Scott, anybody else?
For me,
Cool. Okay. All right.
Okay,
What's next?
okay. Who took Richard? Okay.
We're a
okay.
bit short on time, but do you
Yep.
want to go through the other appendices at rapid fire? I
And
don't think there's anything you need to change.
Yeah,
Yeah, just, and does anybody have any comments to the comments that we've gone through? Okay, rapid fire.
Okay, so appendices, here's the link. This document will be linked and available in the folder. So this is the full text of the bond measure, which we put in every time. This is our meeting, or these are the iterations of the updated implementation plan. These are the this is the expenditure list for the fiscal year you're covering. So that's just a report out of the financial system. These are the independent audit from the last one. I had a note to replace it with the new audit. That's why it's highlighted. So that'll go there. Same document that you went through with Sheldon. Here are our meeting minutes. Here is the articles governing the CBOC. So this is the legislative info. Kind of long there. And specific comments and responses. So there's the appendix for that. So that's where we'll see. So we'll see our comments in that first document or the first page we looked at. We'll see our specific comments here from last time. And an attachment of the CBOC's bylaws. We have an updated debt service, which Carlos provided for me. And then we have updated photos from the projects that occurred during that fiscal year. And just during the bond at large.
But through the fiscal year, that's covered by this report, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Any questions on that?
Are you going to put a picture of the middle school that wasn't built?
That didn't happen this fiscal year, unfortunately, so no.
Well, the money was spent, wasn't it?
Not this fiscal year,
Next one?
the prior one. I mean, I think we've had that project closed out financially for quite a while now.
All right,
are you done, Richard?
I'm done.
Okay. I mean,
Okay, then-
that ship has sailed, so, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent.
No, I understand. I understand.
And but anyway, addressed by previous comments. Okay. All right, so what I'm hearing from the committee is that everyone is good with the format and content of the annual report. And everyone is okay with moving forward with the specific comments for the year with tweaking and verbiage, as well as the Exhibit G or Exhibit H document of comments, the compilation of comments from previous years. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
When are you taking it to the school board?
May 5th.
May 5th.
Thank you.
so as part of any motion to approve this report as it exists right now, there should be a direction to the chair to work with staff to finalize the report and incorporate the comments and changes that have been discussed at this meeting, so that you don't end up with a scenario where the final complete report has to be reapproved again.
All right.
Mhm.
I so move.
Great. Okay, can we get,
Well,
a-
whoever it is gonna. do
yeah,
it.
no, I'm just giving you a hard time, Carlos. You know, I haven't done that yet, so it's that time of the meeting. All right, do we have a
Is that the
second?
part where somebody says, I move to do what
I
Carlos says?
Exactly.
Was that you, Barb?
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstains?
Nice.
All right. Congratulations, team.
No, congratulations. Nice work.
Yeah, nice work, Kevin. Nice work, Skip.
Yes.
Kelly, you too, Kelly.
Thank you.
Nice job.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next agenda item. We wanted to offer up some potential site visits. I'll let Mike speak to this one if he doesn't mind.
Yeah, so as you know, we haven't had a chance to do any kind of sites visits. And I think the one we ended up trying to do during my time here, we got rained out or it was a very rainy night, if I'm not mistaken. So what you're seeing here is pictures of Napa Junction Elementary School. On the upper right-hand side, upper left-hand side is Donaldson Way, the HVAC units. And then the bottom picture is the American Canyon Middle School Student Commons. And we wanted to offer up, if you wanted to, you know, all these sites are pretty close to each other. And probably within an hour and a half time frame, we could walk all three sites and you could see where Measure H dollars have been spent and ask questions and whatnot throughout that. So I'll leave it to you, Kevin, if that's something you'd like to entertain. And if you do, then we would have our staff work with setting up that visit for members of the CBOC who would like to do the site visit.
You can pick one of the meetings that you have on the upcoming schedule, which we're going to cover for a second to do that if you so choose.
Yeah, we had done that in the July meeting in the past, pre-COVID and before. So would throw out if there's interest to do this, as part of the July meeting. Comments, anybody?
Sounds good.
Okay, then we have 4 minutes remaining. Next, Kelly.
All right, so Mike wanted to give you guys an update on the Napa Junction grand opening.
Yeah, so we're looking for either the end of April, first week in May, to do a grand opening. Most likely it'll be on a Wednesday. Just worked out a better day for the school site. So we just haven't had a chance to do this grand opening. So that'll be happening, like I said, either late April or early May. And expect an invitation. And we would really be pleased if our CBOC members could attend the grand opening at Napa Junction.
Okay.
All right, the reminder is just there. Those are links to where you can find our documents and schedules, as well as anything else that you're looking for CBOC wise. You can always email and ask me. I'm happy to resend links, but I just keep those up so that everybody knows where to look. And then review of member terms and more advertisement for new members. Want to give you a quick update on that. We have actually received 3 applications for CBOC membership in the last week.
Kelly, I think we're actually up to 4.
Oh, you're right. We got another one. 4. We're a hot commodity.
People actually read the paper. Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, to update, we ran an ad in the paper in the main page, not the classifieds. We also did digital advertising. Our communications team put an article on the main page of our website, so it was right there front and center. And we added a big red button to the CBOC website for applications, and there were fruits to our labor. So we are doing a quick meeting with each of those applicants. And we've invited Barb and or Kevin, whoever can make it, to be with Mike and I so that they can answer questions from real CBOC membership about what it might be like. So as the chair and co-chair, we're asking them to take that on as well. And it's so far we've done one, it's gone really well. And we have a lot of members that are excited to join the CBOC. So if that were the case, we would probably invite those that still want to follow through to join the CBOC ahead of some of you others terming out, so that we have a little bit of overlap there. So we've had a bit of success and wanted to report that.
Do we term out?
Yeah, yes. So oddly enough, the way it breaks down is it's male and female. So if you're a male CBOC member, you term out in November. The ladies continue on.
We can't do it any past that?
No, because the way it works is that you get 3 consecutive 2-year terms. So if you've been on CBOC for 6 years, that is the extent at which you can serve. So we'll make sure to have a cake for you, Richard, on your last CBOC. You'll blow out candles.
All right.
Well, I mean, all joking aside, right? I think, and maybe, Kelly or Carlos, you have other perspectives, right? But the quorum of us have been consistent through the past 6 years, right? So that continuity, I think, is beneficial to our community and the district.
Agreed.
And if you think what we've weathered, right? We'll just leave it at that. If you think about what we've weathered and what we've come through, strong work, everybody. So, all right, what else is on the agenda? No new business items. I think everyone's tired.
Great.
When is the term actually end?
I don't know the exact date. It's in November.
Oh, so we will get to go to the July walk around.
Absolutely. And you can always join as a member of the public, Richard, if you still miss us.
Yeah, just what I want to see.
So the last item on the agenda is to review future meetings. So the one action item I have here is this is the upcoming meeting schedule. So right now we're falling off a cliff because that was the end of our schedule that we voted on last time. So we do need to vote on a new meeting schedule. A couple of ways that we can do this. We've brought it out all the way to 2024. I know many of you will be done in November. So if you want to vote on just the dates through November and approve those, if you want to improve the whole list, and as we mentioned, we will make the July meeting the tour.
Carlos,
Go ahead.
Kelly. Carlos,
No, that's okay.
Appropriate for us to vote on the entire meeting schedule with us terming out, I'm assuming, because it's under our jurisdiction currently.
I mean, I would probably just as a practical matter say, the new members Wednesdays might just not work for them.
Yeah.
So you might want to just vote on your meetings through the expiration date of those members that are terming out and give those other folks an opportunity to.
Okay.
That's what I was.
All right. You caught me at a weak moment, Counselor. All right. So do we have a motion to approve the schedule through November 9th?
Yes, I make a motion.
We have a second.
November 9th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstains? All right.
All right,
Okay.
so these last 2 items are just informational.
Great.
Okay, so we will ensure that we communicate with everyone on the final versions of everything and keep everyone in the loop. Okay, with that, it is 6:02 p.m. and we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for your perseverance, dedication, and commitment to the community.
Nice work, Kevin. Nice work, Kevin.
I have one statement, Kevin. On November 10th, I'll take all the guys out for a beer, and it won't be. We won't have to worry about about meeting.
We won't have to worry about. Right, got it. Okay.
I don't think that's fair. I think you guys should take me and Mike out for a drink.
Oh, well, you can come too. The rest of us can't meet otherwise.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good
All right,
night.
thank you, everybody.
Appreciate
work.
everybody's support, and
Kevin.
thank you all to those that provided comments. We know it's out of improving the bond program and making things better. So appreciate everybody's collaboration and effort.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Great,
Good night.
thanks.